Beats by scientists. Beats by scientists.
Welcome guys to this biggest tutorial series ever of the C programming language ever made in the entire YouTube series made by people. Learn C language from the beginner level to the expert level without much wasting of your time. Let's dive into it. Okay, my name is Wayne Scientist. Okay, what is a computer language? That's the basic first step we're gonna understand before we deep dive into the programming and algorithms. So a computer language is a formal language used to communicate with the computer, just like we interact with people with the language we are common, just like how I am communicating you using the formal language, English language, to speak to you. That's how we do it, but it's not entirely English. It's something different, but that we may see later. It's some grammar, just like we do. We're also good at grammar. So let's see. Okay, what are we talking about? Imagine these people, A, B, and C. These two people. Let's say C wants to communicate with B. C wants to communicate with B, but C speaks French and B speaks English. So in order for C to communicate with B, he must find a translator, and this translator, in this case, it's A. This translator can understand both English and French. So when C wants to communicate with B, so let's say C wants to communicate something to B, he must tell it to A, then A will translate his language from French into more understandable language of B, so that B can really understand what C is talking about. What does this matter? Okay, just imagine C is you, and B is the computer, and A is the compiler, standing between as a bridge between the human world and the computer world. In the computer world, the computer can only understand binaries and facts, that is the discrete voltage levels, that it cannot understand directly what the human interaction like we can do, just like sit down, stand up. It doesn't understand that. It understands its own language, that is binary interpretation of ones and zeros, that is our discrete voltage levels. So as we are standing at the point of C, where we write a program, like in this case we are writing the C language program, where A is standing in the middle. He will compile or translate the C language we have written. If it is written in correct grammar, A understands it really well. If it's not written in correct grammar, A rejects that information and tell that I don't understand back. C has given A correct grammar, and A really understands this well, and it then translates into B, a machine language where B can understand. Because let's go. What is C language? C language is a general purpose procedural imperative computer language developed in 1972 by Dennis M. Rich at Bell Telephone Laboratories to develop the Unix operating system. C was invented to write an operating system called Unix. The Unix OS was totally written in C language. So that's basically the history of C language, which was mainly used. It is a successor from the B language. Okay, remember this point. C was invented in 1972 by Dennis Ritchie. It was the basic structure of C language. This is the basic structure of C language. Here we are writing, just imagine we're writing to a computer, and as we're writing this statement, this is gonna print hello world. Okay, as we're writing this statement, we are passing this statement to a compiler, just like the B guy standing middle between C and A, just to receive the instructions. Where C wants to communicate directly, C wants to communicate to A, yes, to give the information to B, then B understands it and translate it into the language of A, where A can fully understand. That's what we're doing here. We've written a grammar file A can understand. The middle guy B is the C compiler, where C is the language. The middle guy B then gives this information to computer, where it knows that this guy wants me to print hello world. Okay, what we're doing here, just okay, don't let the structure confuse you. Well, I'm gonna explain it in developer C++. So that was the main program we are going to write our programs. You can this guy B standing in the middle between C and A is gonna read line by line, starting from the top to the bottom, line by line, understanding each and every command. And if the command is ununderstandable, it then rejects that information totally, because it will say, I don't understand what you're saying. The first line is saying hash include stdio.h. What is this stdio.h? Is another file written long back, like it contains the basic information, like which is vital to us, so that when we are communicating with the computer, we don't have to write lots and lots of lines. So this library is there to help us to reduce the amount of space or the amount of structure in images that we can use just to tell the compiler just to do some simple task. So this stdio.io.h library is there to help us. So remember, hash is telling that this is special type. Hash at the beginning of hash include is saying this line is a type of special command. Then include, which means the hash include, which means this special type of command once you ask to include something that is not part of this file, that is part of the library file that is already written somewhere, which is also containing the value information that will also help this program to run. Okay, we have written the name of the file inside the greater than, less than signs or the angle brackets. Identify this as a library file, because the angle brackets really means that look what's inside this bracket somewhere in the library. It's defined somewhere in the library. Then after it successfully reads this, say let's say the B guy standing in between A and C. After it successfully reads this line, it then goes to the other line, because this was compiled without errors, this was understandable. Okay, then int main, then this the curly brackets, closing, opening and closing bracket. Well, you just take it the way it is. We'll explain that later. Let's see this program running in the ID, so you may be less confused. But okay, now guys, I'm in an ID environment. Okay, without wasting much of your time, let's get in the program. Okay, from the last tutorial we see that we have included a hash include on the first line. This is a preprocessor command, and this is just preprocessed before the compiler did translate this information, because okay, the hash include is like a lookup file that eggs before it has been compiled. So the library stdio.h is included into a program before it has been compiled. Okay, now what? Why do we include the stdio.h? You may ask. Okay, the stdio.h is a library for standard input and output format. So it does in the basically in the input and the outputting of the program. So since we are printing hello world, we really want to include this program because we want to print to the screen hello world. So remember, the translator, we have to know to where I am gonna start, where the environment I'm gonna run next. So I am gonna define where the program will start. Okay, the first type is called int. I'm defining where the program will start. Okay, int, this means what I'm about to say after is ended with integers, like int something, like that something is about integers. It has something to do with integers. Int, remember, I give it a space and define what I'm gonna want. It's like the next step is to name it, like int something, the name of your choice. Defining the environment where it is gonna start. I'm defining the main, because that's where the program will say, it will say for the main part. So in main, I've created a main function. That is okay. It's not a function yet. I've created something called name main. It's named main. and it has something to do with int, or int is the shortcut for integers. Okay, since I want it to be a function, I have to put these two brackets, the opening and the closing curly brackets, the opening and closing braces. Remember, this is now defining fully as main is a function, and it's identifying the main as a function. Since C is a block structured language, which means I have to define like my environment inside the curly brackets. The starting and the beginning of the curly brackets is my environment. Here the main is starting from the opening curly bracket to the closing curly bracket, and the main is now my fully functional function that starts from the opening curly bracket and the closing curly bracket. Remember, if you take some curly brackets inside those inside the function main, the curly brackets of the main will start from the top to the last one, and the mid one we just make the next closing curly bracket. So this is now my environment inside this main function. This is my environment, and I want to print hello world to the screen. So what do? I have to call printf. This is already defined in this file. It is already written, and if you control and click this file, you can find this is written already, and you don't need to understand this. So we just go back here. Then printf, it's a function written in this stdio.library. That's why we included also these braces. And on top of that, to end this instruction, I have to put the closing curly, closing semicolon, means the printf have to end here. It's starting from here and I have to end this here. Now again, also include my another printf if I want to. See, just these are separated by a semicolon. Okay, now I said I want to print hello world. Okay, so I need to pass something into my function called printf so that it can print hello world on the screen on the console. So I put them inside the double quotes, meaning those inside are characters, and you are not allowed to print anything in C language, unfortunately, except for string. And if you want to manipulate with my integers, you have to pass in as the formatted strings. That's an unfortunate way, so we have to put these double quotes. And if I said I want to print hello world, and then I'll say hello world. Hello world. This will successfully print hello world. So how do I see this code? Okay, how do I print these things? Okay, before that I'm gonna say that return 0 and end this. Why did I say return 0? I said int is presenting something it have to do with. I said int has something to do with integers. So I'm returning 0, which means okay, there's my integer. I have returned this integer because my function has something to do with this. So I have to return that integer, and I return 0 as my integer. So now let's go run. If you can run using F11, or you can write execute, compile and run. It's same. Let's save, and like as you seen, this has printed successful hello world on the console. And if we want to print hello world, hi world, remember it does it starts from here, then goes to here, then goes to line by line. So if I say printf again, remember C language is also case sensitive, so small letter f and capital letter F are two different things. Then it's F11, it says hello world, hi world in a one line. So how do we split them into lines? Okay, it's forming in a one line. And remember, it started printing hello world because hello is the first function we've called, and the hi world is the next one. So it's run in the line like this. So if I can put escape character, remember this is a backslash, right? And what you write after that backslash without even putting a space is called a special character. If I put n, it means this is a new line. That's just basically what is happening right now in our world. Hello world, hi world. Okay guys, this is now for this tutorial, so guys, don't forget to subscribe and like, and wait for my next video to pop up. And it's about, we're gonna go deeper further and become expert in this thing, in this field. I'm telling you, watch out. When Scientist out.
Beats by Scientists.